My skin color was my religion. Pro-black home. White people hated black people. We did not deal with white people in our class at all.
I'm from the hood in Jersey City. Grew up in a very dysfunctional environment. My mom struggled with severe drug addiction.
Fought a lot, kicked out of multiple schools, struggled with anger.
I resented God. I hated him. I'll drop a beat on the table.
Once you hear the beat going, you gotta flow in. Our oldest, she's hip to it now.
Yeah.
She's jumping in on it. The 3-year-old, she jumps in and she dances right along to the beat.
We randomly just bust out in song.
That is fun.
Yeah, we tire them out, and we also try to stimulate their minds. Man, there's a lot of us.
Yeah. Skylar Rose, 7 months. Alexcia, 3. Ariana, 7. Ariana is athletic through and through. She's out there. She loves to flip and twirl, and she loves to put on my makeup and act like she has her own YouTube channel.
She's very girly, but she's also a ruffian at the same time.
Yeah.
Like, she likes all of the girly things, but she'll also do a swanton bomb off the top of the jungle gym.
My name's Ariana. I have 2 siblings, and I'm the 3rd one, and I'm the oldest, and I have sisters, and her name is Alexcia.
Alexcia, she's our crybaby. She's super alert. She watches everything that everyone does, and she determines for herself, okay, based upon what they just did and what happened to them, I'm not gonna do that.
She cries for everything, but she wants to tell you what to do. She's so sweet though. She's not an affectionate kid. She doesn't want you to kiss all on her, but she wants to be next to you. And then we have Skylar the Smiler. We have Skylar Rose. She's 7 months. She's the best one. But right now,
Don't tell the others we said
they
that.
can't see this show yet. She's just up observing and looking at everything and smiling at everything.
Yeah.
For the young parents, it's okay. You will get past this point of battling who changed the diaper, battling who makes the bottle. There's gonna be a point where we're gonna be sending them off to college and we're gonna miss when they were toddlers and they were wreaking havoc in the blink of an eye. You're gonna be dealing with the grandkids.
Talking to me.
I had what you would call a black girl privileged life. My mom worked her behind off to provide a great life for me. We went on vacations literally every month, designer stuff, house, white picket fence, dog. She provided a great life for me. However, religion wasn't really our thing. We went a few times, but it wasn't talked about in the home. I had a Jehovah's Witness as a babysitter. My adopted sister is Muslim. I went to a Catholic school for 2 years. Growing up, there was nothing like concrete for me in regard to knowing who God is or who Jesus is or anything like that.
I'm from the hood in Jersey City, and I grew up in a very dysfunctional environment. My mom struggled with severe drug addiction, and my father was just doing whatever he wanted to do a lot of the time. My dad was actually married to another woman, and my mother was his mistress for 27 years. He had 1 daughter with his wife, and he had about 9 kids with other women. He would come over on the weekends when she was clean, and he'd hang out with her for about 48 hours. On Sundays, we'd all have breakfast together, and he'd go back to his family. When my mom would relapse, and she would go back to the streets and start doing drugs again, he would disappear. It was normal for me, and I was just grateful to be able to say that I knew my dad, because none of my friends did. The idea of commitment to him, it just wasn't appealing at all. I made the decision at a very young age that I wasn't gonna do things that way. I didn't want that for myself, and fortunately the Lord allowed me to be able to see that through.
I was born in Queens, New York. I was born 1 pound, 9 ounces. The odds were against me from conception till delivery, and I am here now sitting in front of you. So my parents were married, great parents, before they had me. However, their relationship was a little rocky, a little toxic, and my mom definitely considered if she should go forth with me or not. My dad was like, you're gonna have her, you better have her, and she ended up going forth with it, and now that's his claim to fame. But her claim to fame is that she raised me as a single mom, so.
Ultimately, I feel like God used everything I went through as a kid for his glory. But I've seen everything from a really young age. I've seen a lot of things that kids shouldn't necessarily be exposed to, things that just became normal to me. I can't say as an adult that I grew up in like a religious home. Although my mom had her struggles, she taught me how to read, and she was very big on education and academics. My mother actually was a Jehovah's Witness. We would have Bible studies on Thursdays when she was clean. I was a huge wrestling fan. And SmackDown came on at 8 o'clock. I would volunteer to read at the Bible studies all the time, and I would just speed through it so that we can get it done so that I could go and watch SmackDown at 8 o'clock. It never really stuck with me.
I would say I was brought up more so in a pro-black home. It was white people hated black people, and so now I'm gonna go to school, and it was a little clique of us, and we did not deal with white people in our class at all. I fell heavily into learning about Egypt from my stepdad. He was really big into Egypt, so I learned about us being like African kings and queens, and I ended up going to a historically black college based on that, narrative, to where everything was just pro-black. My identity was my skin color and what my skin color could do for me. My skin color was my religion. That's kind of where the story started.
When my mom was clean, life was good. She would get a job, she would be our supporter. There was some consistency and normalcy in our life. But when she would relapse, it was bad. She would sell the food out of the refrigerator. She would sell our clothes out of the closets to go and buy drugs. Me and my sisters would come home from school and the apartment would be stripped. I mean, anything that she could carry out of the house that she could sell to buy drugs, she would. We would just be thrusted back into like just this underworld that we thought we had escaped from. It was a nightmare.
So my aunt is an actress. She used to always tell me, say, for my fans. And I used to just do that all the time. I was like, I don't want to be a computer scientist like my mom. That's pretty boring. I'm gonna go the actress route. One thing my mom told me is that I couldn't act until I got my degree. Within that time, she allowed me to go to acting school. So I went to acting school throughout my entire high school career. I learned the craft for years, and then I was going to graduate, go out there and actually use the craft.
My sister, she brought me to her friend's house one time after school. They were eating dinner, and I just had this idea that everyone's upbringing was like mine. Everyone's home situation was like mine. They didn't have food in the fridge either. So they offered us dinner, and I rejected it. My friend's mother was like, are you sure? Like, please, like, we have more than enough. And I was like, no, I can't, I'm sorry. And my sister was looking at me like she wanted to kill me. When we were walking home, she grabbed me by my collar and was like, why didn't you eat? She has tears coming down her eyes and she's just crying. She was like, we don't have any food in the house. I brought you there so we can have a good time with our friends so that you could eat. You're not gonna be able to eat until tomorrow. Why would you do that? And I was like, I just thought that their house situation was like ours. I didn't know. Most people hear my story and they're like, oh my God, like, how did you make it through that? For a lot of people who live different lives, they can't relate. But for me, it's all I knew coming up.
My mom had a great father, and so she didn't know how to communicate with me with the way I was dealing with things from the loss of my father. My biological father, he was in and out a lot. He was my first heartbreak. This is something that I still kind of battle, but I do love him dearly. I didn't know how to verbalize my pain at 10 years old. So it sat inside and it manifested into anger.
My mom finally got her life together. She stopped doing drugs. However, you still live with that fear that any day can be the day that she relapses and goes back to the streets. A few years passed and it hadn't happened yet. And you still don't think that you're out of the woods. You're like, okay, today might be the day. Hopefully it's not. But it's just a constant fear that just hovers over you. I started playing football going into high school, but my mom had also contracted lung cancer. I actually started to make a name for myself playing football. I was doing really well, started to excel. However, she never got the opportunity to see me play because she was always tired and exhausted from the chemo and radiation. I played with a chip on my shoulder. I was confident. I knew that one day she was gonna, get out of the hospital, she would be healthy, and life would just get back to normal. I thought I finally had some peace in my life. I found something I loved doing, but then when I turned 17, going into my junior year, she ended up dying from the cancer. It brought me to a place that I never thought I'd be. Even though my mom struggled with drug addiction, I always tell people this. My mom was a phenomenal mom when she was clean, and when she wasn't, suffering from a relapse, she was an outstanding mother. She was my best friend. That's why it was so hard, because I felt like my world was taken away from me when my mom died, and I did feel abandoned. I would cry about it, and I would find places to just isolate myself, and I would just scream just because I had to get it out. I resented God. I hated him.
I struggled with anger from the abandonment of my biological father. I fought a lot. I got kicked out of multiple schools. I got kicked out of high school. I went to a Catholic school first. I ended up going to a public school after that in Brooklyn. I went to school and got a scholarship to play basketball. It was one of those situations where my mom was like, pick a sport, and that sport is gonna pay for college. But when I got to college, my eyes were open to where I honestly didn't even want to play basketball anymore. You have the drinking, you have the parties, all the things that I never really got to do in high school because I was always at basketball training, always doing this, always, going to this practice, this training, traveling for this tournament. Anger snapped again and got kicked off the basketball team, which for me, I thought was great.
You have two alternatives where I'm from. It's either you engage in athletics and you excel at it, and hopefully that can get you to college, or you go to the streets. You become a gangbanger or a drug dealer. And I didn't want to do that, so I just immersed myself into football. I had a very strict diet. I worked out 2 times a day, and I didn't drink, I didn't smoke, didn't do anything. It worked for me. It got me to college. 2 months into the season, I tore my ACL. I tore my ACL at the most inopportune time ever in terms of like the career of a college athlete. Your freshman year, at the beginning of the season, and typically with an ACL tear, it takes about 6 to 9 months. However, for me, it took me about 1.5 years to get to a point where I was comfortable again, where I felt like I could perform at a high level. At that time, it was just too long. Once I couldn't do that anymore, I was at rock bottom.
I met my oldest daughter's father at 18. He was 23 on the football team, and to 18-year-old, it was like, oh my gosh, this is the best thing in the world. I'm with someone who is popular and all the things, and he chose me. That's where a lot of my life and my story kind of goes downhill. I was looking for someone to love me. I was looking for someone to stick with me and not leave. And so I unhealthily attached myself to him. The cheating started to come around, and for me, that triggered anger. If you emotionally destroy me, I feel like I'm going to try to physically destroy you. In my dorm room, went through his phone, found out that he was with someone doing so-and-so. He was asleep, and I punched him right in the face. He lost a tooth and everything. That was the cycle of our relationship for 7 years. I harbored a lot of things that I didn't really speak about until I became a Christian. I found out I was pregnant the same day my grandfather passed away. I knew that I couldn't have a child with him, but I knew I didn't want to leave him. And so I was stuck in a position where I can just get rid of it and try to make the relationship better for the next time. I went ahead and had the abortion, and the relationship didn't get better. And then I got pregnant again. And I had to get rid of that one again. And I think in a way that when I did these things that I was being punished. Why wouldn't he just allow this relationship to work for me so I can be happy, so I can have a happy family?
I just thrusted myself into a world of just drinking, smoking, dealing with women regularly, just to kind of escape the pain and the lack of an identity. I'm like, if I can't play football, what am I gonna do? Who am I? There's nothing left.
It looked like your typical toxic, young, not even love, young lust. It was more of an infatuation than true love. Honestly, going through the phone, the text messages, or girls just outright texting and calling me. I actually walked in on it at one time. If I literally continuously tell you all the time of how dumb I was to just think that this was okay. But no, any way that you would find out women's intuition, text messages, walking in on it, people telling me is how I found out. And yeah, I still stayed. I did finally pull up the strength to break up with this guy, and I was like, okay, I'm finally free. I can do this. But he kept crawling right back. And I said, okay, well, I'm gonna keep you at a distance. We'll only be intimate together, but we're not together. One too many intimate times, I ended up getting pregnant again. And I said, I can't do it again this time. When Ariana came, Ariana stole my heart.
I have 2 parents and I have another one at Florida, and I miss them every time when I hear music going.
When we would be broken up, I would go to church. I had an idea that this is where you go when you're broken. And then we get back on good terms and I never go back again. Anytime I feel bad, I go. When I felt good, I didn't go. And so it was kind of like a game. I can no longer have this little girl watch me cry.
The things that I used to love doing, drinking, women, weed, started to just weigh on me. Really bad downward spiral for me. It was just me and the pastor in the room. And I heard the gospel being preached in a way in which I had never heard it. This Jesus that I'm hearing about, I need him.
Little puzzle pieces starting to at least come onto the board. They weren't connecting, but they were on the board.
Stop trying to create God in your image.
God is love, and love comes from God. In 1 John, the Bible tells us that God is not only all-loving, but that he actually is love itself. The heart of the Parent Compass television show is to bring the transforming love of God to families everywhere. In every Parent Compass episode, true stories reveal family struggles and how their lives were radically changed by the love of God. Parent Compass, an award-winning television series, is completely funded by people like you. If you have been touched by God and you want to share God's love to others, would you please pass it on? Jesus tells us to go into all the world and to tell about him. With your donation, you allow us to take this television show into many different nations and in many different languages, free of charge. And a portion of your donation goes to Parent Compass Outreach to feed starving children. Your gift does so much. To make your tax-deductible gift, go to parentcompass.tv/donate. That's parentcompass.tv/donate. And thank you for sending love and hope around the world.